How to invest in real estate without using your own money or credit. Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Daniel, one half of the Kwok Brothers. I feel like I'm so sick and tired of saying that. It's just over and over and over again. So guys, if you could do me a favor, what would really help me is if you clicked on the subscribe button, and it would make my day a lot better, right? That way it can motivate me to keep saying that same line over and over again, because it means there's some progress happening, right? So thank you. I appreciate it. All right, let's get to the topic at hand. How to start investing in real estate without using your own money and credit. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to give you guys a full breakdown, and I usually don't do this. I usually don't give a full overview of what this video is going to be like, but let's talk about it, right? I'm going to give you guys two strategies that help you actually acquire real estate without using your own money or credit. And I'm going to talk to you guys about raising money, because that's so key. We all heard it, OPM, how to use other people's money. I'm going to share with you guys some techniques and some mindset tricks that I use to raising money, as that's one of the things I'm really, really good at in real estate investing. I'm going to talk about two strategies in particular that help you guys acquire real estate without using any of your own money or credit. The first one is called subject to acquisition. Now, let me give you guys a definition on what subject to is. Subject to literally means acquiring real estate subject to the existing financing. So what happens here is that you, as the real estate entrepreneur and investor, actually take title of a particular house or a particular investment property, but the owner's name stays on the existing loan and stays on the financing that is current in the property. So let's talk about who this may pertain to, because again, guys, I say it all the time, the best deals are not found, they are created, and they are created because you find the people and you solve their problem. So let's talk about who this may be pertaining to. So it may be the guy who's tried selling his home for, years and years and years and is just not able to, and he has a mortgage. So if the individual has the house, so let's say they lived in the house for 5 years, they get relocated because they found another job, but they have trouble trying to sell the house. Well, guess what? The seller is still on the hook for that mortgage. So for you as a real estate investor, let's say that you have an exit strategy of putting the house on short-term rentals, right? You want to make money putting the house on Airbnb. So what you would then do is you would actually acquire the property, you would take title subject to the existing financing. You actually run your Airbnb business out of that particular house. You own the house because you have title, but you are paying the seller's existing mortgage, therefore solving his or her problem. And guys, it works with anything else. I've seen it work on a 3-flat, a 4-unit where the seller just doesn't want to manage the building anymore. It's vacant. They still have a mortgage on the property and it's causing them a lot of financial stress, a lot of financial pain. And for you as an active real estate investor and entrepreneur, you're able to go in, you're able to take over the management, put tenants in there, make it income producing. You still pay the owner's mortgage and you're buying it subject to the existing financing of the seller. Let's talk about the second strategy. Now, this is a strategy that I talk about a lot in this channel, and it's our neighborhood-friendly owner financing. Now, owner financing, to give you the basic definition, if you don't know what it is, if you haven't seen the other 20 videos that we put on our YouTube channel about owner financing, it's when that instead of you going to a bank to get a traditional loan to acquire a building, what you're going to do is have the seller finance you, act as the bank, and carry the note for the remaining of you having the property. So instead of you having to go to the bank, you actually work it out with the seller, which I love because it gives you more flexibility to the terms. Because if you were to go to the bank, chances are they're going to tell you what the terms are. They're going to say, hey, we want 25% down, we want 5% interest rate, and we want this at a 30-year note. Whereas if you negotiate with the seller on seller financing, you can say, hey, what are your needs? What are my desires and needs? How can we work together? What are some overlap? And you could buy properties 10% down and potentially even no money down, which is what we're talking about, buying properties with no money or credit. Well, let's say there are situations where you have to go to a bank, therefore you need credit in the partnership. Or let's say that the seller who's financing you, he's willing to do it. He's willing to go with the owner financing route, but he still wants 10% down on a particular property. Well, this right here, my friends, is where we have to learn how to raise the capital or raise the equity depending on the situation. Now, before we talk about raising the capital, here's a question that I want to ask you, and ultimately a question I want you to ask yourself. Do you even deserve to raise capital? Are you in a position where you should be raising capital in the first place? Well, let me tell you a story that really inspired me in terms of how to be creative with raising capital. So I remember when I was 9 years old, I had a play date with, a good friend of mine. Well, in all honesty, he wasn't a good friend. He was actually the only other Korean kid in the apartment complex, and my mom made me hang out with him. So he's my friend, right? By default. So I hang out with, I'm 9 years old. I hang out with my buddy, right? My friend, and his mom walks into the room while we're playing with Legos. And she goes, hey, do you guys want apple pie? And of course, us being young, energetic 9-year-old boys say, absolutely, right? We want all the sugar that we can, that our little bodies can handle. So she goes out to make the pie. And 5 minutes later, she actually comes back and says, hey boys, we're having a little bit of an obstacle, right? I don't have any sugar to bake the pie. Now, it's important for me to tell you for the sake of the story that my friend's mom, had no financial means to go to the store and buy sugar, right? That's just the financial situation that they were in, as it was for our family, right? So I couldn't go back to my apartment and get sugar as well, just because we were in the same financial situation. So 99% of people in this scenario would have said, hey boys, no apple pie, sorry, right? Continue playing, sorry I even bothered you. Instead, what she did was very creative. She actually started knocking on the door of people in her apartment complex in her hallway, and she started making a little deal. If a neighbor were to give her 3 cups of sugar, which is what she needed to bake this pie, she would return 45 minutes to an hour later with a slice of freshly baked apple pie. It didn't take long for her to come back and say, look what we got sugar. As a matter of fact, I think it was the second door that she knocked on, a neighbor took her up on the offer. So long story short, she bakes the pie. And sure enough, 45 minutes later, she holds true to her word, goes back to her neighbor, and hands him a slice of beautiful baked apple pie. Now, this got me thinking. It relates a lot to raising capital, right? So if you have the knowledge, if you have the team, and you have done all the things that you need to do to invest in real estate, but you don't have the capital and you have poor credit, well, can't you find somebody like my friend's mom did with her neighbor? Can't you find somebody who has the money and who also has the credit to help you get the deal accomplished? Absolutely, you can absolutely do that. But let's go back to the first question that I asked you guys moments ago. Do you even deserve to raise capital? And let me frame it to you in another way. Does my friend's mom deserve to go knocking on doors asking for sugar if she can't bake the pie? If she doesn't know how to bake the pie, if she doesn't have the equipment, the baking pan, the oven, right, the measuring cups, to actually make the pie, to bake it and have it be actually good, does she deserve to go knock on the door and pretty much get sugar from her neighbor? Most people would say no, right? Any logical individual would say no. She shouldn't be asking for sugar if she doesn't know how to bake the pie, or even if she doesn't have the equipment to bake the pie with. Because you can have all the knowledge you want. You could be the Gordon Ramsay of, well, Gordon Ramsay, because he's actually really good at cooking. You could be Gordon Ramsay, but if you don't have the equipment, if you don't have the oven, if you don't have the baking sheet, then you're not going to bake the pie. It's actually impossible. So ask yourself first, do I even deserve to raise money? Now let's go on to the real question. How do I raise money, right? How do I do that? And this is a question I get very frequently. And well, my response is very similar every single time somebody asks me that question. Make it about the people. Because when you're asking, Daniel, how do I raise capital? Where is the focus on? The focus is on you. The subject in the sentence, if we're going to break down the words and the sentence and how you phrase it, is how do I raise capital? You're making yourself the focus. But if you make other people the focus and you say, hey, how can I serve you? What are some obstacles that I can help you with? What are your biggest challenges? I'm pretty sure eventually you're going to find people that say, well, I have the money. I just don't have the time. I don't have the knowledge. And it's a lot like that neighbor saying, well, I have the sugar. I just don't know how to bake the pie. I don't have the oven. I don't have the baking sheet. I don't have the knowledge how to bake the pie. And you will find people like that. As a matter of fact, that's how I actually raised money. That's how I initially found a lot of individuals that would invest with me. Is I started asking, I took my phone out and I literally started jotting down notes and asked hundreds and hundreds of people, hey, what is the biggest obstacle that you have right now? What are some of the biggest challenges you have in your business? And sure enough, I found 1, 2, and actually even 5 or 6 people that says, hey, I have the money, I don't have the time, I don't have the knowledge. And I would simply respond by saying, hey, would you like to have a conversation on what that would look like if we were to invest together, if we were to collaborate and complement each other's resources and knowledge and skill to make a deal happen? In other words, to bake a pie, right? To pretty much add value to that individual's financial health. So you're not raising capital, you're instead providing them an opportunity in exchange for them to participate in the deal. So that's the exercise that I would have you guys do. I would actually challenge you guys to start asking people, whether it's online, right? And whether it's face-to-face, whether it's at a meetup, a networking event, whatever it may be. Hey, what are some of the biggest financial obstacles, your financial struggles that you have right now? and reverse engineer from there, right? And I'll throw you guys a quick example because I want you guys to be practical and I want you guys to take away with something real today. I'll give you guys a quick example before I finish out this video. If you were to ask somebody, hey, what are some of the biggest financial obstacles that you have right now? One of the most common ones that I hear all the time are taxes, especially from doctors and also high W-2 income earners as a whole, whether they're an attorney, whether they're, a very high up in the corporate ladder, whatever it may be. Taxes seem to be one of the most common things that people just dread paying. So if somebody says, let's say I got a doctor, and I'm going to use a doctor because they have very high tax liabilities and tax responsibilities. Let's say a doctor comes to me and I ask them, hey doc, what are some of the biggest financial obstacles that you have right now? They say, well, my tax bill is really, really high. And I say, well, would you be open to having a conversation on how investing in real estate can help mitigate your taxes? Because, well, if you're raising the money from them and you actually partner up together in an LLC and you buy a building, you receive what's called depreciation, which is tax savings and tax advantages. And because that individual is a partner in the LLC with you and you're collaborating to make the deal work together, they actually participate in getting some of the tax advantages and savings as well. And matter of fact, having said that, one of my favorite people to invest with are doctors because primarily my niche is in multifamily buy and hold. So again, guys, hopefully that example was helpful. Hopefully this whole video was helpful in learning how you guys can acquire real estate without using your own money or credit. So again, guys, I'll see you guys in the next one. Subscribe, like, and share this video. I'll see ya.